It's your boy Conserviz34, and yet again I'm here not to talk about live music or my favorite bands or artists. I'm here to talk about a situation in the world of hockey that has compelled me to speak out. The last time I did this was when Mitch Miller was drafted by the Arizona Coyotes, and a former person that was bullied by him, a disabled black boy, Isaiah Meyer Crothers, spoke out about how there was a lack of remorse. I now come to speak about Jagger Joshua, Michigan State hockey player, who faced racial slurs multiple times during a game on November 11th, 2022. Let's take it back to 2017 for a moment. I took the young black boys that I mentor every Saturday morning to a UConn men's hockey game, a team that I love and have been supporting for years. A season ticket holder and an attender of many of the neutral site games, I love this sport. And as someone who played this sport, it gives me joy to see these young men in Hockey East competition continue playing the game I love. But I took these black boys to see a sport that I wanted to expose them to, that maybe they may think that, is this for black people? And my stance is yes, this is for everyone. Hockey should be and is still for everyone, despite the failures across many factions of leagues and organizations. So I took them to the game. I explained the game to them. I broke down the history of some of the black slaves that were down in the deep south with my ancestors that moved up and fled to Canada and created the Colored Hockey League, funded by black businessmen in Canada. They enjoyed the game, but was most important, I didn't even know this going into the game. The Big Ten opponent, The Ohio State University, had a black player by the name of Jagger Joshua. For those young boys that I mentor every Saturday, to see somebody that looks like them play the sport of hockey was a watershed moment. It made them return to other professional and collegiate hockey here in the state of Connecticut with their parents and loved ones for future games. Dakota's brother was the victim here on November 11, 2022 of racial slurs. Dakota's former team, the Ohio State University men's hockey program, which Dakota helped lead to a Frozen Four. This team failed, as I record this on November 22nd, 2002, failed to take additional action after a player on their team was ejected with the game misconduct due to racial slurs. The Big Ten Conference has failed to take additional efforts against this player, and that is why I am speaking out. When I think of the Big Ten, I think of all of the opportunities that black men and women have been given in this conference, and many times this conference was one of the first conferences to do so. I think about the University of Minnesota, which had a history of integrating its program well before the Deep South. Same with other Big Ten programs at that time. The University of Minnesota had the first national championship team in history to have a black quarterback leading it to victory. The Big Ten has a black commissioner, Kevin Warren, again making history, the first major conference commissioner that was black. But yet here we see where representation is supposed to matter, where you have black leadership at the university, the Ohio State University, and black representation in the higher ranks, the most highest rank of the Big Ten. We see no further actions taken again as I record this video. I hope I have to edit this video or put something in the comments to say that this thing has been updated and the player has been punished further. I know all about addressing these situations of racism and hate. I faced these things playing hockey from the late 90s to 2012, where I skated in my last club college hockey game. I know what it's like to be at college in 2009 and 2010 and get a call from my dad. It was almost once a month that my brother had faced some sort of racial slur or someone taking a cheap shot at him when he was playing youth hockey in his days in middle school and high school. So I understand what Jagger Joshua is going through to get that call that your younger brother is facing racism in the sport you love. And as much as I took the things I took, I was more upset that my brother faced worse racism 4 years after I was playing in the same leagues he was playing in. And it makes me even more upset to see Jagger Joshua face the racism he faced and only a game misconduct be levied. When my brother was facing these things in 2009 and 2010, my dad was outspoken and spoke up to not only the coaches of both teams when racism occurred, but to USA Hockey. USA Hockey did the right thing and suspended these kids for multiple weeks. Not only did that happen, these kids had to look my brother face to face in the eyes and apologize for the racial slurs or the cheap shot combined with the racial slur that he faced. And they had to write letters and get more education to understand why what they said is not right. Now, I don't care if people learn from this and become better or continue to be racist. My point is there should be consequences when you take a step and say something racially motivated or religiously motivated against someone on the ice. And I know that if this was another group or walk of people, this minimal punishment would not be handed out and further deeper consequences would have been more immediate. That's why I'm speaking out, just like I see other people of different communities speak out when they are affected. And I stand with victims across all walks of life who are discriminated against. Because I don't believe anyone should face hate because of the color of their skin or the religion they follow or their gender or other ways they identify that are countercultural. So I speak here still befuddled and not understanding why further action is not taken. To the Big Ten, do better and have additional punishments, especially if you have this pride of having the first black commissioner of any of the major conferences. To the Ohio State University, you benefited from a black player that was a part of a Frozen Four hockey team, yet here you are not taking action against racism. And by the way, isn't this the same school that wants Bronny James to come? A basketball player whose father plays in the NBA and discussed racial slurs being spray painted in one of their California homes? Should he still come to the Ohio State University for further visits or commit to them when they won't even commit to black hockey players being discriminated against? The other thing that I've seen, not just in college hockey, but in the NHL and other leagues, is because hockey is a niche sport that doesn't have the popularity of the NBA or the NFL or other major sports. There appears to be a culture where people want to let these things die down in the news cycle. And if nobody speaks up, it just goes under the rug. But this is why I'm speaking out, because this is not going to go under the rug. This will be things that impact the legacy of the Ohio State University and the Big Ten Conference if further action is not taken. Like I said, my brother had situations over 15 years ago, and further actions were taken back then by USA Hockey. So if you guys want to be part of inclusion, diversity, and progress, you guys should take further action. And again, this is an education to make people understand you cannot say these things and get away scotch-free. This is not cancel culture. This is consequence culture. There are consequences when you say things and do things that are wrong. And hopefully you change. But if you don't, the fact that there are consequences to threaten people that may be racist, may be hateful, is all that I am asking for. I'm so proud of the black boys and girls that play this sport. I'm so proud of the black men and women I see, from Michaela Grant-Mentis getting a record historic contract, to Soraya Tinker not only being a great hockey player, but making an impact to the future generations of young girls in her community and communities across the country. To the Black Girl Hockey Club, which I've listened in on seminars and am a member of and a supporter of that club. To many of these black men in not only the sport of hockey, but in the media side. Kevin Weeks breaking trades. Anson Carter being an analyst and seeing some of these great young players like Darnell Nurse do his thing. Seth Jones do his thing. It makes me so proud. There is progress, there is growth, And I hope that even as these young black boys and girls face hatred and discrimination and racism, that it does not stop them and they continue to fight against it and show up the next day and show up the next day and not let this racism deter them. Unfortunately, there are black boys and girls who are pulling themselves out of programs and not playing this sport because of hatred in leagues like in the greater Toronto area. And that's not talked about enough. There are people that are discouraged in Quebec where racism has been shown even against parents and loved ones of black players. Again, I just hope that more is done and that people will keep the same energy when black boys and girls are discriminated against on this ice, on the court, on the field of play, as they do when other groups are affected on and off the ice, or other groups are impacted by the words of a student athlete. It's your boy ConserViz34. We'll see what happens, but I do hope there is change. And again, I stand with the Joshua family. Jagger Joshua, Dakota Joshua. I stand with Michigan State hockey. I appreciate that they are supporting this young man. Because again, I know what it's like when your team supports you when you face hatred and racism. And it means the world. And I know what it's like when your team isn't supportive or teammates say racial things to Anson Carter or to Joe Ward when a black player scores in overtime against the Boston Bruins. But the support is important. And I appreciate that people are standing out in the media, across social media, and across the hockey world. Hockey is for everyone, even when these organizations fail to protect people from minority communities, and especially from the black community that I'm proud to represent. A proud descendant of African slaves that were brought over here centuries ago, but found a way to make the most from the southern parts of Florida all the way up to those colored hockey league players in Nova Scotia. Change is happening, but more change needs to happen at the management levels, at the leadership levels of these sports.